Marty Vee, thank you so much for being on the Authors on Audio podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm really good.
Thank you so much for being on. So, you write a lot of contemporary small town romance stories. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you got into that specific genre?
Well, I grew up in a small town. The fictional world of Grand Ridge is very much built on the foundation I came from. So I pulled a lot of inspiration from, the community I grew up in. And I hope that I hope it's conveyed in a way that's like authentic while also being interesting. But like anything that you see about it that's charming, anything that you see about it that is like maybe gives the character some challenges, like that all comes from a very like authentic place for me. So that's how I ended up making Grand Ridge. But then also, I've always loved, like as a reader, getting to see the same characters pop up and the same places pop up. And so it was a really natural place for me to start writing with my own personal background and then also with the fact that like as a reader I really love small town
I think a lot of authors pull from their own personal experiences.
for sure.
So, how do you go from your personal experiences to getting it on the page into a book? What does your writing process look like?
So my writing process. Such a good question. I rate chronologically, for one thing. And I tend to need to know the first one or two chapters, two or three chapters. Three chapters is amazing. If I can start a project knowing three chapters, like, man, we are cooking with fire, right? We're on it. But the way it feels as I'm writing, because I write chronological and I'm a pantser. And I really trust my instincts at this point with how much I've read and written to know about where like the romance has to be, about where the exterior plot has to be based on, how long I want the piece to be and where these things are landing, right? The visual I give is like I'm like hiking at night and I have a flashlight that's faulty. And so sometimes it's really bright and I can see every tree, every root. I'm clearly on the path. Things are great. But then sometimes the flashlight it's really dark. And all I can see is like each word in front of me. And so that is the best way I could like express what that process is. I don't do research until I hit a point where I'm like, "Oh, I need to know more about this thing." And then I go do research. Like it's to the best of my abilities to be as time efficient as I possibly can be while also giving myself room to like play and know that I don't know everything.
I totally understand. I'm a pantser as well, so I completely relate to everything you
Yeah.
said. In those moments where like the flashlight is only showing immediately ahead of you, how do you break through those moments to kind of expand again? Like these moments where, as a pantser, I think sometimes you get stuck and you're at a point in the book where maybe you don't know which direction to go. How do you kind of break through those barriers?
A lot of it is, and this is like the hardest thing to do. And you like I know personally I forget it every single time. You have to stop staring at the screen. Like you have to go read something, watch something, go for a drive, do the dishes. Like you have to get away from the task because it's going to work in the background while you're doing all the other things. And while you're watching something or reading something that like you're really engaged with, you're really enjoying, all of a sudden something's going to click. Like I literally just had that with the book I have coming out on July 2nd, A Bittersweet Divide. I'm always like, I write to the breakup, I write to the dark night, and then it gets to the grand gesture. And I'm like, I don't know. What do these people do? Like, I don't know, confess your love in some way, right? Like it's so hard to get a grand gesture that feels grounded in reality because that's where I write. Like I really want my rom-coms to feel like these are places and people you could meet and hang out with, right? And so it gets to this grand gesture and I'm like, I don't know. Like I was writing A Bittersweet Divide and I was like, I don't know what to do for this grand gesture. I know what it has to accomplish, but I don't know how to do it. And I stopped and read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid and sobbed, just sobbed so much. And then the next morning I was like, I was telling my mom about it, but she wasn't reading it. And I was like, I need to read you the last three chapters of this book And we just sat at the like kitchen counter sobbing at 8 o'clock in the morning. And it was like absolutely incredible. But like in reading that, it like broke open like the block that was there. And I fully understood what I had to do. And so like the best advice I could give at that point is you've hit that wall, stop staring at the page, go do something else. Go do anything else. And you just got to let it marinate. Like it might not happen immediately, but like it will happen eventually that you'll figure it out.
That's so important to be able to step away from it because so often I think writers, you want to write a great story and you want the ideas to
Mhm.
keep like coming through, but sometimes you really do have to just let things percolate almost in your subconscious, things that you don't even know are
Yeah.
going on beneath the surface.
Well, because like you can fabricate something. You could fabricate something, but like is it actually the solution? Or is it just the best thing you could come up with under pressure? And so if you're able to take a
Mhm.
pause, like it will happen organically and it'll happen to the best. Like that's my experience at least.
For sure. Are there any resources that you like to use, like any like holy grail writing resources or books or anything that you can turn to kind of help your writing process?
First and foremost, my critique group, like my friends. I am lucky enough to meet with the same people once a week, and we read aloud and then we give input, right? And so these people go from the very beginning of the book all the way through. And so they are really like fundamental to me being able to be like, I don't know what this character needs to do here. I'm really struggling. And then like bouncing ideas. There was also recently an issue where I was like, I cannot, like I had this Remy and Alicia. It's the slowest of slow burns, like 62,000 words before there's a kiss, right? I guess 42,000 words, but it takes
Yeah,
forever.
it
And
was.
so, but
I love a slow burn, so I loved
I
it.
do too. I do too. I love it. But like, I got to the point where I was finally able to, like, they're going to do it. Right. And I didn't know what to do. Like, I didn't know how to do it. And so one of my friends, she was like, I'm going to just take this. I'm going to write this sex scene and it's going to be the worst. It's going to be terrible, and then you figure something out from this. And it totally worked. It was the weirdest thing. Like it made it silly enough that I was able to like write this, right? So friends, critique group, critique partner, number one. That is the number one thing. Like don't write in a vacuum. Don't write in isolation, right? Another one I love is the Emotion Thesaurus, and I wish I could remember the author's name, but I can't right now. It's fantastic. Like if you're like, oh man, this person's feeling anguish. You can look under A, anguish, and see how this emotes externally, how it feels inside the body, how it can de-escalate and where it can escalate to. It's a really incredible resource. I love it. And then Scrivener are the things I use. Like that's it. But if you can't do any of the other things, have people that are like readers and able to talk with you about your work.
I agree with that so much. I think certainly in my own writing, the number one most important thing is getting that external feedback because you
Mhm.
get like sometimes you get like writer's blindness to your own work, you miss things, and it is so helpful to have that external feedback.
Well, then also, like, you get to the point where you're like, I don't know how to do these things. I have read these words so many times. I'm convinced it's terrible. I'm convinced I've never known a human and how they work and how they interact. You know what I mean? Like, you get to the point where you're just like not capable of like seeing the reality of the situation, that like you're just too close to see it. And so having someone else be like, no, actually, step away from the project. It is really good. Stop cutting things up. Like, just stop. Right. And so that really, it helps to have someone who's able to talk you off a ledge.
So, how would you say your writing has evolved from the first book you published to this most recent book that you have coming out?
For one thing, I know more what I want to write. I know more of like what sort of characters I want to build, what sort of world I want to build, stuff like that. I also feel a lot more confident in my ability to get us from beginning to publication. I feel like in that confidence and in the like better knowledge of myself, there's a lot more playfulness. I wouldn't say those first couple books are boring by any means, but I was really keeping myself inside of a box to make sure that I was meeting genre expectations and stuff like that. And now I'm like, "Oh, I do that." And now I just play, right? Like, now, like, I have a lot more confidence that, like, I can do this thing that I wouldn't say suspends reality, because like, the bird in Remy and Alicia, viewer, there's a scene where Remy hears Alicia scream and he bursts through her wall or her door. And he doesn't go through the wall like a Kool-Aid man, but he bursts through the door. And there's a bird in there. And he was fully like caveman moment. And it's something I wanted to write as soon as I had the concept. But I talked myself out of it in the first draft because I was like, no, I don't want to be ridiculous and this and that. And like, I paused between that first draft and the editing of it and wrote something else. And then in the course of writing that other thing, I matured to the point where I was like, no, but this is fun. And I want to have fun. And I want my readers to have fun. And so, yeah, it's ridiculous, but also like it's fun. And that's enough. Right. And it works. And like, if you have confidence in yourself, you can make anything work. So, yeah, I would say that that's my biggest evolution is like just more trust in myself.
Definitely. I think, especially if it's like almost like a book you've been working on for too long, it gets so easy to kind of get lost in the second guessing and the,
Yes.
no, is this good? Is it not? Like at some point you have to just like, just do it, you know?
Yeah. And then like I feel so beholden to my characters. And because I'd been sitting with Remy and Alicia for so long, I was like, I felt very much like, can I do them justice? Can I give them their happily ever after justice? Happily ever after justice. And it was just a lot of pressure, right? Like you love these people. And it was a lot of pressure.
So, do you ever think you would write outside of the romance genre?
I think that is where I like where my voice thrives. I think that's like if I wrote anything outside of the romance genre, it would be like still heavily romance, right? It's my favorite thing to write and it like brings me joy and brings me hope, right? Because the whole thing is like that we will overcome ourselves to be good for other people, right? And so I have other ideas that, well, I guess there's a couple script ideas that are not romance, but like I haven't ventured into that. But I have other book ideas that aren't contemporary rom com, but they are romance still. So, a romance with a haunted house, a romantasy, like all these different ideas are percolating. And I believe they'll see the light of day someday, but they would still be romance. It's just my first love.
Let's talk about your books a little bit. So, you addressed this a little bit when you talked about why romance books, about your personal experience living in a small town. For Hazel and Elijah, the book deals with kind of religious trauma in the sense of the more religious groups in this small town hold Elijah and his mother to like a very unfair standard and, sort of villainize them. Can you talk to me about some of the inspiration behind writing a romance novel from this angle?
Yeah. Some books, there's more distance between you and the character, and some books, the distance is really close. Elijah definitely experienced an aspect of a religious community that I related to heavily. And like, even like the gossiping within the like community as a whole, these people will have very strong, they feel like they have ownership of not just the place they live in, but the people existing within it. And at least that was my perception of being in a very similar town and a very similar religious group. So, yeah, the religious trauma and the feeling of like being under a microscope with every single one of my actions was very easy to write and came from a really authentic place. Yeah. It's weird because I didn't, because of the way like I write stories, I didn't set out to write that story. But because I sprinkled in like, his dad and like the way he was a member of the community and like all this stuff, it ended up being like, okay, well, I have some real life stuff to pull from in this.
Writers are so good at pulling from their own personal experiences, even if it's not like an exact mirror image, you can still take from kind of some of those lived experiences and reshape it and use it as inspiration in the actual story. So even if it like looks a little bit different or it's just inspiration, like it still is so much a part of you as the writer.
Never a direct, like, plug and play. It's an inspiration pulled from. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So with staying in the context of Hazel and Elijah, Hazel really stops herself from reaching out to Elijah, even though she clearly likes him. She clearly wants to speak with him, but she
Mhm.
doesn't let herself. What holds her back in that time frame from like their initial hookup to him showing up again in the small town that just really keeps her from like sending that text message and reconnecting with him?
I think quite a bit of it is her being overworked and being in this new she's in a new life, right? So from the very beginning of the book where she's set up to take over the veterinarian business to actually taking it over, she has had a life change, right? And so I feel that she is overworked, overwhelmed, and she's just struggling on a day-to-day basis, right? And then adding in like her own social anxiety, adding in like the story she has told herself about herself, that, you know, she's this nerdy like girl and that he's like some like, you know, golden boy, dream boy, right? I feel like those are the limitations that she's putting on herself. And I don't even know if that's so much like it definitely is not an intentional thing. It's just the way we stop ourselves out of fear. Like there is no tiger, but she's seeing one, you know?
It's human nature to almost like self-impose limitations onto ourselves.
100%. Oh my gosh. And like I am currently in a point of like, okay, where am I stopping myself? You know what I mean? Like, where am I creating limitations? What story am I telling myself? And so I feel like it's such a relatable thing as a reader. Something I am struggling with is like I wrote the first part of Hayes and Elijah, and it was in this like little anthology. And then I wrote the rest of it. And initially I published it with just part two. And then I got enough feedback that I was like, oh, we really need part one as well. So I put it all together in a book, right? It's like you have to decide, am I going to take this very valuable time that I have to go back into past published works to get it up to snuff to where I'm at now? Or am I going to accept that this is fine? It shows growth from one book to the next book. And it doesn't mean that it's a bad book or anything like that. But there is an element of like, man, I wish I could take the time to go back and establish those motivations more concretely. Like, especially
Mm.
considering it's such a relatable place to be.
I do think it still comes through
Good.
in the
Good.
book. What about yeah, yeah, no, it does. It's just I think it's interesting to expand on it and kind of do this I don't know, almost psychological analysis of the
Yeah.
characters
Oh,
and
yeah.
diving diving deeper into it because it's so human. I think everybody
Yeah.
decides what they can and cannot do instead of just taking the plunge and reaching out and letting the situation play out. You kind of predetermine how you think the situation is going to play out, and it's an act of
Yes.
self-preservation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a reason
So
why we do this. You know, we we villainize fear, but like its whole thing is to keep us alive, right? But it's understanding that like
mm.
fear is just a discomfort and we can be uncomfortable.
Would you say the same motivations are present on Elijah's end? Because I got the impression with
No.
him that he, maybe deals with like a little bit of self-loathing, or what do you think as the author, what were you going for with that?
What I feel for Elijah is that he is concerned about what his reputation within the community will do to her and her
Mm,
profession, right? So I think that he put a lot of boundaries up for himself because of like he doesn't want to negatively impact her. And then also just having, you know, from the east side of the state to the west side of the state, it's only a couple hours, but like just the limitation of space and time as well. And but I think that the distance wouldn't have stopped him if he had felt that her associating with him wouldn't negatively affect her.
It makes me like I just felt for Elijah because he just almost like he viewed himself as tainted goods, like that could negatively impact the person that he wanted to be with. And toward the end of the book, he almost fulfills that prophecy, right, by pulling away from her.
Part one, like his apprehensions are proven to him, right? That like it wouldn't be the community that's punishing her, it would be his dad punishing him through her. But like, he is the victim of like emotional manipulation. And so there's not just like the self-fulfilling prophecy, but there's proof for him to be like, no, but this is real. And so his
Mhm.
apprehension had a place.
I do want to get to Remy and Alicia a little bit because I
Okay, please.
really, really loved that book.
Oh, thank you. I love them.
So I love them. I love them. And I was gonna say, like, another unique angle is coming at the book from the perspective of a divorced couple getting back together, finding their way back to each other. How did you come up with that idea? Because I've never seen it before in any romance book that I've read.
So Remy is Owen from Just Fake Married, my second book I published. It's his best friend. And I needed someone because Owen is super quiet. He's not very emotionally open, like all this stuff. I needed someone that Owen could open up to, that would have a point of view that could help, that would have like some sort of foundation to be able to be emotionally intelligent, right? And so, him having lost the love of his life and having gone to therapy became like this character element that helped Owen have someone to talk to that could like tell him like, "Hey man, like go be vulnerable." And as I was writing Just Fake Married, I just fell in love with Remy. And I was like, I need to give him his happily ever after. And so that was how we ended up in Grand Ridge. And that's how we ended up writing Veterinarians. Was like now they've gone to school, like Owen and Remy went to school with Hazel, and Hazel's opening up this clinic. Now we're in Grand Ridge, right? And so I asked myself for like a number of years, like, what do I do for Remy? Like, what is his happily ever after? And I really considered like giving him a different partner than Alicia. But ultimately, I was like, well, if romance is fantasy fulfillment, then like the fantasy is that these two people can reconcile and can be together. And so that's how it ended up happening. So then the fun part came to being like, okay, so why is Alicia in this small town? What can I do to make them face to face so they can't ignore each other? Like all this stuff. And so that's how the rest of like the forced proximity came in.
Because that was going to be my next question. I love the career choices for both Hazel and Alicia. I thought they were very unique, and I was just wondering, how you landed on each one being a veterinarian for Hazel and this forest conservation activism thing for Alicia. Did you just land on those because it helped progress the story, or was there specific inspiration behind these careers for these specific characters?
So again, yes, Owen ended up being a veterinarian because I needed in Just Fake Married, I needed him to have like a situation where he'd have donors that maybe are contributing to because he works at like a rescue, right? And so there's donors and there's volunteers and all this stuff. And so I was talking to my friend who's a vet tech, and I pulled from the animal rescue she worked at. And so then just everyone became a veterinarian after that. Like it's just veterinarians everywhere. And so that's how we got Hazel with like the veterinary clinic and stuff like that. And I really wanted to give her something that would give her, because she's quiet and all this stuff, I wanted to give her a level of like ownership in the community. And so her taking over the vet clinic and being so young and all this stuff, I thought was an interesting element of like strain to put on her. With Alicia, I needed a reason for her to go to this small town on the west coast of Michigan. And, we have so much water here. And it's funny because, like, if I was writing this book a year later, she wouldn't be there just to keep a tourist attraction out. She'd be there to like stop the building of an AI data center. You know what I mean? Like it's so interesting how just like a couple
Hmm.
months really changed what that narrative would be for her, right? But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and it's another thing where like, your own personal passions come in, right? Like nature conservation is important to me. Water conservation is important to me. And so those sort of themes pop up kind of frequently for me in my writing. And I love a story of like people coming together like as a group of many to fight powerful resourced, companies and people.
It's just always so inspirational, I think, to read about. I think in real life,
And we're seeing it
sometimes
in
it
real
feels
life.
like, yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, and,
Yeah.
it sometimes does feel like we're up against so much that, you really do need to like seeing it written on paper, it can be inspiring to try to make it
Yeah.
happen in real life. Does that make sense?
I completely yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that it's again normal for humans to have a negative view, right? But if you just never give up, right? Like if you just always care, if you're never
Yeah.
apathetic. And I think that that's a big thing that we're running into right now is that for generations, we have had a lot of apathy in our society. And so seeing people no longer hold to like, well, they're going to do what they're going to do, right? Like what can I do about it? And people being like, "You know what? I guess I'm laying in front of a tank today. Like let's go." Right? It's
Yeah.
really great to see. And I think that that's one of the reasons why stories are so important, right? Like that's why The Lord of the Rings hits like it does. And like all of those things, like we need to see outside of the realm of the story we're telling ourselves to have faith that things can be better. And that's another reason why I love romance,
Yeah.
because happily ever
Yeah.
after.
Going back to Remy and Alicia, you play with this theme of being with the right person at the wrong time. When you kind of see the flashbacks of them when they were first married and younger, you could just see how maybe they both had some habits or coping mechanisms or whatever you want. They both contributed to sort of the downfall of this relationship. And after taking some time apart, going through therapy, like maturing a bit, they find their way back to each other. Do you think that happens in real life that you could be with the right person at the wrong time? And if you are, do you think there really is a path to find your way back to the right
I
person at
think
the right time?
I think so much of like every relationship is willingness, right? Like a willingness to be vulnerable, a willingness to create a space that's safe for somebody else to be vulnerable within, right? And that you can find yourself not willing or find the other person not willing to be that for you. And that people change and that they can become willing. Like I do believe that. The question becomes like, can you trust it? Like I think that's a very brave thing to do, to take someone's past behavior and trust that it is past behavior. And like we can only go based on our own story that we're telling ourselves and based on the evidence they are presenting. But we're going to see what we're
Mhm.
looking for. And so it's not necessarily that I think that, you can be the right people at the wrong time. I think it's more of like, I don't think that there's any like singular person. I'm far more pragmatic than that. And so, yes and no. Like, I don't think I could. Like, I don't think I could have somebody not be that person consistently for me and still believe that I could be stable within that relationship. But then again, 5 years, things change. A lot's different in 5 years. My household 5 years ago looks nothing like my household now. And I have hope that it could be true because I believe I'm an eternal optimist. But like, I don't know. But I think that that's an interesting question that the book presents is like, because like that was the challenge is now proving to the reader that we are not going to repeat our pattern, that we have grown enough, and that these are two people that maybe they weren't meant for each other before, but they are now. That's more of like the theme that I have for myself within the book is that they were the wrong people. There was a lot about them that was right, but they were the wrong people, wrong time. But this is a different time, and they are now different people.
I think it's part of the reason I like the book so much is because it does ask these questions that, you don't you just don't see a lot in romance books, and I thought it kind of pushed the envelope in that way. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the book
Thank you.
because yeah, I think as an avid, yeah, of course, as an avid romance reader, sometimes some romantic books can get a little bit cookie cutter, and I did not
Mhm.
get that at all with your writing. But let's talk about your publishing journey. So, can you tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about your path to just getting your books published and what that looked like for you?
Yeah, so there's always been a writer. And so there was a time between like when I started getting more serious, but around like 2015 to 2020, where I visualized myself going in a traditional publishing sort of route. But as like the pandemic happened and meeting other writers and their plans and stuff, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I don't see me thriving in an endless sea of rejection. And so I just chose to
Mm,
go indie. And there's definitely a lot like I the book I'm writing currently, and I just got started on, I think I will query it. I would love to be in a hybrid situation. I can see the benefits of like living in both worlds. But if it doesn't happen, I'll just publish it. Right. And it
yeah,
wasn't, I don't
yeah.
need the validation of a publisher to tell me that I'm ready to go.
What were some mistakes you've made along the way that maybe like some advice you could give someone who's just
Yeah.
starting their indie publishing journey?
My biggest regret in this is going quiet and cold in reader relationships that if I had just kept peppering in and kept the conversation alive in between books better, I would feel more solid about some of those people that were really excited about me that now like life has happened and we've separated. So I would give the advice of like stay connected with your readers. It doesn't have to be every day, but every other month or so, just send like a hey, what are you reading? Like what's going on? I heard you said you were doing this. How's that going? Like just keeping the conversation warm. One of the things I'm kicking myself with right now, and like I understand why it hasn't happened yet, right? Like there's just so much time in a day. And there's so many things that I have to do. Like I have a day job, I have kids, all this stuff is life. And so I understand why this hasn't happened, but not having a street team is one of those things where I'm like, man, every release would go better if I had a group of people that were posting about it outside of like the people that just happen to be arcing for me this time around. And it's not to say I haven't established any of those relationships, but I haven't created a place to like make sure they have access to graphics and they can make their own graphics and all these things. Like I just haven't established a way of communication there. So that would be my piece of advice. You don't have to do everything alone. Find ways to find help.
I think that's so important. So speaking of street teams, what does your relationship with social media look like then as an indie author?
Hostage situation. I want out.
Yeah.
It's like I see its efficacy, I see why it's important, but it's not somewhere I thrive. I'm perfectly comfortable talking into a camera and doing that sort of route, but actually posting, multiple times a day, that's never going to be me. The most I can do is like 5 times a week for 4 weeks, right? And that's only sometimes. I'm not doing that right now, and I have a release coming out. Like, I would say the best, like, I'm trying to remain like there on some level. Also, it's not a natural place for me. It takes way too much time. I'll just do a post. It only takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes my took us. Like, I no, it does
Yeah.
not only take 5 minutes. That is a lie and stop lying to me. But yeah, so it's not something I love. It's something I do. I think the thing I didn't realize when I started this, because you have aspects of every job that you don't like. Who cares? Do the job, right? But what I didn't realize is how much it was going to demand from me creatively. And then also like the mental energy
Yeah.
that it takes. And then, now you're posting and you have to interact with the comments and all this stuff. It takes time. And I just didn't realize how much time and mental energy it was going to take. It's not something I will stop doing, but it is something that should I ever be in a position where I can have a PA do it for me, I will hire this shit out. It's no me gusta. I do not like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally I've done such a big handful of these podcasts. Every single author I've yet to come across an author who enjoys social media.
That's the thing with indie publishing or publishing in general, because traditionally published authors still have to do this. You have to wear so many different business hats. Like you are the writer, you are the editor, you
Mhm.
are the content creator, you are the marketing, you are the accounting. Like you are so many businesses wrapped into one person. And some elements of that are just the necessary evil. And my thing is like, I wouldn't mind doing it nearly as much if I felt like I understood how to crack the code. But I can't read,
Mm,
some billionaire's mind to know what the algorithm's going to be doing this time. And so
yeah.
you do your best. What else is there?
It really is all you can do, especially when it comes to social media. It's just it's an ever-changing landscape. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think especially as writers, like you just got to focus on writing great books. Like it is the most important thing. It's what you're here to do anyway, and social media
Yeah.
is just, yeah, part of the job, I guess.
I mean, the goal is for someone else who has a social media following to talk about your books and share it
Mm,
that way, right? Like ultimately, I feel like if I could delegate this out, it would be better for everything.
yeah, for sure. So with the last few minutes we have, this is always the last question I ask, and it's my favorite question. And it is, what are just some of your favorite books? What do you love to read? What inspires you? You can throw in some movies and TV shows in there if you want to.
Awesome.
Just lay it on me. What are your
Yeah.
favorites?
Well, Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid really made an impact this year. I have had great luck with books this year. I also loved this book called Sirens. I want to say it was by Amelia Hart. That was incredible. That was like fantasy realism. It was so cool. And like it had two different timelines. So there was like a historical aspect and then there was like the current aspect and like how these two timelines like melded together. It was gorgeous. It was so good. And the writing was like lush. Like some and like everyone
Mm,
has their own voice, but like her voice was so like I'd get done reading a paragraph and I just go back and read it again because the way she put words together and the way she described things, it just felt like eating dessert. It was so good. I really recommend it. I love Roxy Noir. She is always a winner for me. Her 1 month boyfriend was like my favorite read of, I want to say 2024, 2023. One of the things I really love to see in books is when like that doesn't matter on genre, but we're seeing like a very like human like experience, right? Like it doesn't matter how like because in Atmosphere there's like this incredible like moment of things going very badly in terrible circumstances, but on its molecular level it's all about like human connection and it's so good. Anything Emily Henry, my god, I love that woman. She makes me laugh. She is like so good, and again her descriptors, like I love how one of the things I really love about her and probably Taylor Jenkins Reid is every word is carrying the story. Like nothing is superfluous. Everything is moving the characters, moving the scene, moving the plot, moving like it is revealing. And I really love how she writes. Those are some things I'm reading and I'm really loving. It also Lee Bardugo is a big winner, like Six of Crows. She has her series that she's working on right now, the Ninth House series, and the third in the trilogy should be coming out, I think, this year. I'm very excited. But anyway, okay. I just also had to add that. So
she's amazing. No,
she's
absolutely.
amazing.
All honor and glory to Lee Bardugo. She's amazing. Yeah,
Yes,
no,
I
she's
love her.
icon.
My God, icon. We have the same birthday. So we're like besties, really.
Marty Vee, thank you so much for being on Authors on Audio. It was such a pleasure having you on today. Thank you so much for being
It
here.
was so great to be here.